What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing a slightly different video. So the other day on my Instagram page, I asked my followers what the biggest lie you've ever been told in lifting was. I got a nice string of answers, as you can probably imagine. And the thing is, it got me thinking. I'm like, okay, people who wrote in answers are either probably trainers and coaches themselves, and they now know what they were initially taught is wrong, or it's folks who have fitness as a more serious hobby. So they want to learn more, and they learn that, again, what they were told is either one, not factual, or just a blatant lie. So I'm going to talk about a bunch of them today, give my reaction, give my thoughts. I'm going to definitely be needing this mug. Let's dive in. All right, so the biggest lie that folks have been told with lifting, based on the volume of responses I got, was lifting makes women overly muscular and manly. And it sucks that that is even still a thing that people even talk about. And it's like, you gotta wonder, like, who is even telling women that if you touch a weight, you're gonna get manly and so forth? We need to let this finally die. And maybe it's the boomers out there that say that, like your grandma who doesn't actually understand resistance training is saying that to you. Who freaking knows? But I honestly feel for any woman who's ever been told that, and I've talked to a lot of different coaches themselves, and it's constantly a thing that they get in consults and so forth when working with different athletes. So that is just fucking annoying, and that needs to die. Knees over toes. I didn't know that was a lie. Holy shit, where the fuck have you been? Nice to have you. Welcome to the party. The idea that knees shouldn't go over the toes, my God. It's so rough because this is just continually a thing where we have to literally teach lifters how to relearn how to squat and actually use their quads, because we've been told for so long that we don't want the knees to come over, that we're also now hip dominant in our squat. And I say all as in like just a general all, don't rope yourself in there and be offended. But we're having to relearn how to squat because we've been told for so long that the knees shouldn't go over the toes. Because why? Because one or two studies were cherry picked and they saw that deeper squats might have a little bit more torque on the knee and so forth. I mean, we look at how humans move and how we move in sport. If we never put the knees over the toes, then we would move like some damn robots, and that's just not the case. So the idea that the knees shouldn't come over the toes, especially when quads are prime movers in the squat, is so... Our next lie, sit back when you squat. Whoo! This is just like the knees over the toes. I fucking hate this one too. The idea of sit back when you squat as a cue and so forth for lifters, it completely ignores the contextual individuality of who we're talking to, right? So sit back when you squat. It's an okay cue at that, for a beginner who is falling forward and losing their balance forward. Okay, sit back. It's a nice like counter cue to have them do and over exaggerate what you're trying to elicit them to do. But the idea that coaches continually say sit back when you squat and apply that like a fucking blanket cue, it's what's causing these fucking hip dominant squats, and that's why people still think their knees can't come over their toes. It's like all connected. But the whole idea is that we're gonna take this one cue that's designed for a very specific population or problem, usually it's beginners who are losing their balance forward, and applying it to the masses. And then you have these people who are like, oh, I gotta sit back when I squat and sit to the toilet. No, fuck that. Like, that's so dumb. Unless you're low bar squatting and you are trying to be very hip dominant, you got no business cueing yourself to necessarily sit back when you squat. If it's a cue that helps you, sure. But I hate it as a cue, and I've actually filmed a video on that. I'm gonna put it up there, just check it out if you want. Another one, muscle confusion. The only thing fucking confused about muscle confusion is whoever's saying muscle confusion. Saying that you're trying to confuse a muscle, like what the fuck does that even mean? Like, are you saying, hey, I'm gonna squat and then I'm gonna overhead press and I'm gonna confuse my body so it's gonna grow more? Like, what is the logic? Where's the logic even at? Like, I can't even rationally understand where the thought process that connects those two together lays. Like, usually I can meet somebody like halfway and be like, okay, like I get where you're coming from, I guess, even though you're wrong, but I get it. Like, muscle confusion has just never made sense to me. And even if it's like a workout standpoint, so it's like I'm gonna work out this way one day and then this way the other day, you're not fucking confusing your muscles. You're just integrating in variability and variety. Like, what the fuck? Makes no sense. All right, the next one is lifting gets you girls. To any dude who gets into lifting for women, I think you pretty much quickly realize that when you start lifting, it's only dudes that realize, like, women honestly, like, sure, they like a nice body, but they really don't give a shit if you go to the gym and work out a lot. Like, some fitness girls do, sure, but like the vast majority don't care, and you're mostly just gonna get dudes complimenting you. So if you're a dude training to get girls, expect to get the dudes, man, because that is what's gonna be coming your way. Moving on to the next one. This is the best movement for insert muscle group. So stop you right there. Anytime you see best in something like that, or you're recommended, oh, this is the best exercise for this. Best is, I think, erroneous and misleading because it gives you the impression that there's an end-all be-all out there. Best is not a word that I think any coach, trainer, or somebody who's serious about lifting should ever use, because we got to think about, cool, squat. Are we going to call it the best for the legs? Not necessarily, because what if you can't axial load? Is that the best movement for your legs? No. So that's even one example, and there's like countless. We could talk about anthropometrics, sport, goals, the list goes on. And that would just dictate what would be ideal or probably more optimal for certain situations. But again, best, fuck that word. Next one, high reps for toning. Nikki, what the fuck is toning? All right, the next one, deadlifts are bad for your back. Okay, where do we even begin? Because most people who say this are the people who lifted with shit form and then they hurt themselves, and now they associate that one exercise with injury of the back and so forth. So that's one way. Or it could just be people who might be saying like what their doctor told them, who doesn't actually have a pretty freaking good idea of what's actually going on when you are deadlifting. Because to assume any exercise is inherently dangerous or bad, I think is a reckless way of thinking, because at the end of the day, there really isn't a dangerous exercise. There's just poor movement mechanics and poor fucking loading choices. So if you are deadlifting, like if you're deadlifting within your means and you actually have mechanics, there is nothing inherently about that for like dangerous for your back. Ooh, here's a good one. Everybody natty. Yeah, that's a big one. I'm not even gonna touch on that, but I think it's a sobering feeling, and being in the know once you start training long enough to realize who your false idols are. Next one, you have to be sore for it to have been a good workout. Ooh, this one's good because this I think is very, very, very common, especially with like the class ideology where it's like, oh, I went to my HIIT class and it was so hard and now I'm sore and I had a great workout. No, asshole, you just went and did a novel stimulus which your body probably wasn't prepped for, and now you're just fucking fatigued. You're not necessarily being like productive from a long-term goal standpoint. So I've actually filmed a video on this, and I'm not gonna ramble too much more. I'll link that up here in the corner, so check that out if you are interested. But basically I talk about how soreness is misleading when it comes to productivity based on your goals and long-term gains in the gym and fitness and so forth. All right, so here's a good one. Working out abs is how you get abs. This is a topic that I think is finally kind of being like mass understood, that spot reduction isn't really a thing. So for example, if I blast my abs, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily gonna lose a bunch of body fat on my abs. We all lose body fat at different ratios, and that's depending on our genetics and our training, our diet and so forth. So like how I hold my body fat will be different than how you hold your body fat. What I look like at 7% body fat when it comes to where I'm storing my body fat will be different from how you're holding your body fat. But I do think there is some merit in the idea that like we need to strengthen and build our abs to have them be a little bit more visible at higher body fat. So let's say I'm like 12% body fat over here. I am just starting to train my abs more and I'm trying to decrease my body fat. If I have larger abs, so if I have a bigger and stronger rectus abdominis, the likelihood of having them be a little bit more visible at a slightly higher body fat than if I wasn't training my abs at all is actually a thing. So spot reduction when it comes to targeting fat specifically with a various exercise or movement pattern, we know isn't completely factual. Now, we can build the muscle for that area, which can have it be a little bit more visible at higher body fats depending on how we're built and our genetics and so forth. It's a bigger conversation, but spot reduction, not a thing. Shin, ooh, here we go. Because this one's fun for me. Your shin has to be vertical in the deadlift. So again, this is like the IQ of like sit back and so forth, right? So if you have somebody who's squatting their deadlift, so let's say that we have a beginner, right? They're bending down, looking like they're in a squat to pick up the barbell. Then we might cue them, hey, like try to create a more vertical shin, keep your hips a little bit higher. So this is one of those times when we take this fucking cue that's designed for a very specific niche problem and population, and we apply it to the masses. Shin vertical in the deadlift needs to die. I've written a good article on that before, so I will put that in the description of this video. So check that out if you are looking to learn more a little bit about that topic and how I like to see it and why I think it's very important for everybody to acknowledge. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I'm gonna do as my mug says and let that shit go, because you know some of these are still running rampant in certain populations, in certain circles. And I think the industry as a whole is heading in the right direction, obviously, because we have smarter coaches, we have better means of finding quality information, but goddamn, fuck how some of this stuff in forums and shit lives on. It pains me. Have a good one. Yeah, like, subscribe. Peace.